let's talk about this claim. So yesterday you guys came to me and said, Hasan, why are you silent on Iran? Your silence on Iran speaks volumes and things of that nature. Now, of course, I've covered the story that has been happening in Iran. The Iranian people protesting against their fundamentalist, authoritarian, theocratic government for, quite a while, as I do regularly. But this was one thing that I saw everywhere on the internet, and it was actually worrisome how quickly it took on, it just became mainstream. This idea that Iran was going to impose a death penalty on nearly 15,000 protesters. Ian Bremmer, Iranian parliament votes overwhelmingly to execute 14,000 arrested protesters. A global response, starting with the G20, must be severe and immediate. So here is Sune Engel Rasmussen. It says, extraordinary lack of basic fact-checking. Iran has not sentenced 15,000 protesters to death, as a number of celebrities and political leaders are saying. Here are the facts as we know them. Iran has arrested about 15,000 protesters, according to rights groups who also say nearly 350 protesters have been killed, which I mentioned as well, including 50 minors. It has sentenced one protester to death so far as we know, which I also mentioned yesterday. Sometimes your W seems straight scripted, lol. Yeah, it's not that. First of all, this is a bleak situation where misinformation against America's foreign enemies spreads so quickly, and so therefore it's not necessarily a W, it's an L for everybody. The claim that Iran has sentenced 50,000 protesters to death stems from a call by 227 of the country's 290 MPs for tougher, quicker sentences for protesters, including potentially, but not limited to, the death penalty, which has been used in the past against a limited number of protesters. The first protester that was sentenced to death, by the way, which can be for numerous different reasons, but the first one that was sentenced to death so far, which is still unjustifiable, I'm anti-capital punishment, as you know, was sentenced for, according to the fairly corrupt Iranian judicial process, he was sentenced to death for public disturbances that includes burning a building, I believe. Okay? It's pretty, it's just I'm going to be as cut and dry as possible here. It's still bullshit. No one should be fucking sentenced to death. That's psychotic. So, that is the Iranian government. But the claim in and of itself, especially when we talk about like a horrifically authoritarian, fundamentalist, theocratic government, okay? I don't think you need to make up additional shit. Like, I don't think you need to make up additional shit to make them look worse than they actually are, because they're pretty fucking bad. Like, it's like literally up there, right? Iran's parliament does not issue legal sentences. That's up to the judiciary. Lawmakers, however, do issue hardline calls or write letters on the regular for the judiciary or the government, which are never implemented into law or policy. This correction is not meant to whitewash or excuse anything Iran is doing. We at the Wall Street Journal have reported nearly every day for the past 2 months on the oppression of basic rights in Iran. Scores have been killed, thousands arrested. The Iranian state is known for sentencing protesters in trials without due process and is widely accused of using torture and violence to obtain forced confessions, which are inadmissible in normal, courts. We should expect that to happen in the coming weeks and months as well, but misinformation needs to be addressed. This case is symptomatic of how many Westerners with no expertise in Iran view the mullahs. I doubt the high-profile think tankers and heads of state would be as quick to issue such erroneous statements about almost any other country. That's not true. North Korea is another country that they would do that for. It is like China is another country that they would do that for. This is a major blind spot that has, this is a major blind spot. Pakistan, Afghanistan, these are countries, Russia, these are countries that like have been declared foreign enemy states, right? Like foreign nations that are enemies to the United States of America. If you're on the official bad guy list, it does not matter. Pakistan is not necessarily on the official bad guy list, but you know what I'm saying. Venezuela, Cuba, these guys are. Okay, China, Russia. If you're on the Rogue Nations, not a part of America Club lists, not a part of the America list, you will 100% get hit with any number of different propaganda talking points, and the average person has no capacity to like think about it clearly. And, it's just how it is. It is how it is. I think that there is a gigantic blind spot, and that blind spot is deliberate. I think that that is not a blind spot that we arrived at on an accident. That is a fundamental role that manufacturing consent within the media plays. American media works as an arm of capital. They work to normalize some of the oppression that you experience under capitalism. They also work to declare American enemies to be like outright horrifying, monstrous, monolithic beings, so that no matter what kind of like unjustifiable bloodshed America may in the future or may not, or may in the future decide to engage in these countries, then all the Americans are already geared up into thinking that that is justifiable. The Islamic Republic seeks to gain support from the Iranian population by claiming to be a victim of Western propaganda and lies. Nothing helps this claim more than an unfounded allegation by a Western head of state that is so easily dismissed. It's not even like preemptive propaganda for potential future war crimes. If you know anything about the state of Iran, you already recognize, if you have like a sense of humanity inside of you, that you haven't been, that hasn't been destroyed in your brain. You recognize that sanctions are collective punishment, and that sort of collective punishment is done so that political instability happens in these countries,